The movie begins with the stunning visuals of Thailand's capital city, Bangkok, with its towering buildings, streets humming with natives and tourists, and vibrant nightlife. Suddenly, we see a girl running frantically. The streets are now empty, and this tourist lady is begging for help. While running, she comes to a stop on the street, and as soon as she turns, she is attacked by an evil-looking demon. The girl is trapped by ugly hands on the wall, and the scary demon puts her other hand inside the girl's mouth. The last thing we hear is her screeching and crying loudly. The scene shifts to an airport, where we see a young couple named Julie and Jim arriving in Thailand for an adventurous and fun vacation. The couple is received by a driver and tourist guide named Gogo, who is a chirpy and nice guy. Gogo takes the couple to their hotel. Outside the hotel building, Julie is surprised to find miniature houses decorated with all sorts of stuff. Upon asking, Gogo informs her that these are the ghost houses, where people give gifts to the ghosts to keep them happy and away from their houses. It is like a tradition in Thailand to keep evil spirits away and to attract positive energy. Gogo asks the couple if they have a tour guide or not, because he can help them navigate the best places in Thailand. The couple agree, and Gogo tells them that he will come and get them after they get some rest. The couple soon check into the building and reach their room, where they freshen up. During her bath, Julie notices a lizard looking at her strangely. This creeps her out, but she ignores the feeling. Later, Gogo takes them on a tour. They visit some of the most beautiful locations, and Julie takes pictures with her camera. Julie asks Gogo to stop the van, and she starts clicking pictures of some statues kept under a big tree. She is specifically intrigued by a ghost house gift hanging on this old tree. Suddenly, the ghost house starts creaking, and we see black smoke coming out of it. Julie is so immersed in the sight that she is startled when a beggar approaches her from behind. This scares her, and she leaves immediately. Afterwards, they go to an expensive restaurant for lunch. Jim watches Julie with love-filled eyes, and finally gets down on his knees to propose to her, which makes Julie beyond happy. Julie accepts his proposal, and the two kiss passionately. At night, Gogo drops them at their hotel, and says that tomorrow morning he will take them on a special tour. Inside the hotel, they meet two boys named Robert and Bill. They introduce themselves and congratulate the couple on their engagement. Robert suggests that they should celebrate their relationship and go out for drinks with them. The couple agree, and after some time, they both go out for drinks with Robert and Bill. Bill checks Julie's camera and is impressed by her talent. Soon, they start talking about the ghost houses. Jim says that if the ghost doesn't find a house, it might take residence in the living. As they walk away, some coins fall from Jim's hand, and seeing that some beggars react strangely to it, Robert tells him that here it is considered bad luck to drop coins on the floor. He adds that the locals believe that if you drop coins, you might end up losing a finger. Jim starts connecting with Robert, whereas Julie starts talking with Bill. Bill tells her that Robert has a girlfriend, whereas he prefers solitude. Robert and Jim then go to a nightclub, and Bill stays outside with Julie to accompany her. Inside the club, Robert pushes Jim to make the most of his life, and he gets flirty with a girl. Outside, Bill tells Julie that Jim is a lucky man to have her in his life. After some time, Robert comes out and says that he will now show them the ghost houses. At first, she hesitates a bit, but Robert convinces her, saying that she will get the most amazing pictures and that it is a place they will definitely remember their entire lives. As the couple get back into their van, we see that Bill talks to Robert and asks him not to do it, as Julie is a lovely girl. We don't know what he means by this, but he certainly looks worried for Julie. Inside the van, Jim is completely passed out from drinking too much, and Julie finds lipstick stains on his face, which makes her angry. Soon, Robert and Bill enter the van, and Robert starts driving it. Upon asking if they are heading back to the hotel, Robert says that they are going to the countryside. Jim gets worried and tells Julie that they shouldn't trust these guys because they barely know them. But Julie, who is seething with anger, rejects his opinion and says that Jim had his fun, now it's her turn to have some fun. Then, after some time, he brings them to a forest, and Julie likes this place very much. Now Julie feels that Jim made out with someone in the club, so she's angry with him. Jim retorts that he had seen her and Billy staring at each other. Then both of them start quarreling, and Julie takes out her engagement ring and throws it away. On the other hand, Robert is seen doing something weird with Julie's hair scarf. Now Julie goes to Robert and Bill, where Robert tells her that it is a ghost house graveyard. All the old ghost houses were brought here and kept. Then Robert shows her the ghost house where he has tied her scarf. Robert tells her to take the statue as a souvenir for her journey. Jim stops her from doing so, but as soon as she picks up the statue, Robert and Bill run away. It looks like it was their plan all along to leave them stranded in the forest. Seeing this, Jim follows them, and Julie notices that it is her scarf. She cannot believe that Robert and Bill tricked them, or how it's possible that her scarf is wrapped around the ghost house. Suddenly, the forest starts brimming with negative energy, harsh winds start howling, Julie gets a sensation that someone is watching her, and a demonic woman appears in front of her. This terrifies Julie, and she starts screaming. On the other hand, Jim tried his best to stop Robert and Bill. He wanted to know the truth about why they would leave them stranded in the forest, but they managed to escape. Jim has no option, so he rushes back to Julie and comforts her. After reaching her, he sees that Julie is not feeling well, so he picks her up and takes her away from there. The next day, Gogo comes to their hotel and waits for them. We see they are still in the forest, and there are no networks on their phones. After walking for a while, Julie asks him to stop, and Jim sees that his phone is finally getting signal. He voicemails Gogo to say that they got stranded in the forest. Only then does Julie hear tree branches snapping and sees a man on an elephant moving towards them, who suddenly disappears. Julie is now hysterical and scared, whereas Jim doesn't know what to do. It's nighttime, and Julie starts hearing strange voices. Just then, Jim gets a call from Gogo, who asks them about their location. Then, after some time, Gogo arrives, and Jim tells him that Julie suddenly fell ill. Seeing this, Gogo gets worried and takes them to his village. It looks like Gogo has realized that something bad has happened to Julie, and that her physical health is not affected. He brings them to a house, where Julie's health starts deteriorating. At the house, a woman comes to check on Julie. She opens her mouth, and is freaked out by what she sees. Inside her mouth is an eye, which frightens everyone, but Jim is unable to comprehend what's happening to her. It seems that the women have realized something is wrong with Julie, but they don't know how to help her, so both of them begin praying while their hands are folded in front of them. Suddenly, Gogo pulls Jim out of the house and tells him a story to help him better understand their current situation and Julie's deteriorating health. Gogo tells Jim that a long time ago, there was a Japanese woman who married a Thai man. After marriage, the woman settled in Thailand and the couple started living happily. Unbeknownst to her, the Thai man was having an affair. When the woman discovered that her husband was cheating on her with a younger girl, she got very angry. She decided to take her revenge by burning the house down, with her husband and that young woman inside. When she lit the house on fire, her husband managed to escape along with the servant girl, but the wife was unable to do so and perished as a result of the fire. After her passing, she turned into a disgruntled spirit, and those who speak Thai refer to her as Wade. He explains that the Thai people are very respectful of Wade. You are not allowed to take what belongs to her. She is the one who takes care of the ghost houses, and no one is allowed to take them from her. She tends to go after the ancient, haunted houses, and keeps herself occupied with those responsibilities, which allows her to avoid the young women. But if you disturb her ghost houses, or try to steal them, she will come after you and drag your soul off to the afterlife. Meanwhile, Jim notices that the children are bringing a monk, although he told them clearly that Julie needs a doctor and not a monk. This is because Jim is still not convinced by the story Gogo just shared, and he thinks Julie has some medical problem. Gogo tries to convince Jim, but they are both sidetracked as the monk enters the house. Jim goes after him and tries to tell him that there's nothing wrong with Julie and he doesn't believe in this ghost house myth. But Gogo drags him out once again and tells him to let the monk do his job. Soon after, the monk starts reciting prayers. They also put amulets on Julie's arms. After a long time, the prayers finally come to an end. The wind blows out the candles, and when Julie finally comes to her senses, there is no one else present. As she eventually manages to open her eyes, she finds that it is morning. Julie suddenly feels an odd sensation around her, and we see that the Wadabe has started moving closer to her before disappearing. Jim checks on Julie now that Monk has left, and discovers that she has recovered and is feeling much better. Afterwards, Gogo takes them back to the hotel. Meanwhile, Julie recounts to Jim that she had a strange and terrifying dream, in which she saw a vengeful woman with a scarred face pursuing her soul. Julie further says that the demonic woman was after her soul. When they find Julie's scarf, Jim realizes that Robert and Bill did this all purposefully. They pretended to be their friends, but lured them into a trap. He loses his cool and shouts that he is going to call the police on them, and he won't forgive them for what they did to her. Julie tries to calm him down and takes him back to the room. Inside the room, Julie takes off her amulets, and the two get intimate with one another. But Julie is terrified as she catches sight of Wadabe standing behind Jim, and she goes into the restroom, sobbing. Later, Jim asks the receptionist at the hotel about Robert and Bill, and the employee tells him that there were 3 people, 2 boys and a female, who checked out this morning. Julie has just taken a few minutes to relax in the bathtub when the door to the bathroom suddenly flies open. After some time, she leaves the bathroom and begins scrolling through the images that are saved in her camera. She finds a photo of herself in which Wadabe can be seen standing behind her. The photo was taken while Julie was checking the camera, and this scary picture leaves Julie in fear. Suddenly, the lights in the room are turned off and there is an immediate transition to a state of complete darkness. When she comes out of the room, it's dark in the hallway too. Suddenly, the door to her room is closed and she feels someone behind her. It's as if someone just passed. And when she turns back, she is shocked to see that the place has turned into an old ruin. It's not her hotel room anymore, but an ancient house. She finds a burning room and Wadabe starts haunting her. The burning room and presence of Wadabe indicates that Gogo's story about the Japanese woman was in fact true. And now she's looking for redemption. She cannot forget her revenge, and a young girl like Julie cannot escape her wrath. As Wadabe continues to scare Julie, we find her running away in fear and crying for help. Meanwhile, Jim comes back to the hotel, and on the other hand, Julie sees Wadabe, who turns and looks at her, and then turns off her torch. Jim arrives and calms her down, after which she is taken to the hospital. Jim wants to get her checked out for any sickness. Even in the hospital, Julie starts seeing visions and scary demons around her. At the hospital, the doctor tells Jim that there is nothing clinically wrong with her. She tells him that she had a British patient with the same condition who just recovered this morning, and she was with her 2 male friends. This indicates that the 2 male friends were Bill and Robert, and the girl was Robert's girlfriend. Jim is now seething with anger, because he realizes that they have done something to Julie in order to protect Robert's girlfriend. Jim then calls Gogo and says that he needs him at the hospital. Then he leaves for the airport with Gogo, and finally he spots Bill there, following whom he reaches Robert. Jim confronts Robert about his actions and why he did what he did. The issue gets heated up, and he starts fighting Robert, but Robert overpowers him, after which Bill calms him down and asks him to go to an address and meet Reno. Bill apologizes for what they did and tells them to go to Reno, as he is the only one who can help them now. Now Gogo takes him to that address, which is an old, abandoned building. Here, he meets Reno and tells him that he is Bill's friend. Gogo tells Reno that he heard he passed away. Jim then tells him about Julie and asks for her help. Now we learn that Reno is a shaman, and he tells Jimmy that Julie has been cursed. Now, he must find another person to transfer that spirit to, or else it will eat her soul. Hearing this, Jim is completely shocked and doesn't know what to do. Back in the hospital, Julie wakes up to see that she is tied to the bed and sees a ghost outside the window. Then the ghost tries to open the door, which frightens Julie. After this, the smoke starts entering the room, which then starts turning into Wadabe and comes on top of her. Julie starts screaming in fear, but then Jim reaches her and calls the nurse, who calms her down by giving her sedatives. Then Jim goes out and starts looking for a target to transfer the curse to. He starts a conversation with a couple, and while talking, he picks up the lady's scarf. But when he goes out, he finds he can't do it and returns the lady's scarf. At this point, we know that Jim is a nice guy, and he wouldn't want anyone else to suffer like he is. We also see a stark difference between Jim and Robert, who used Julie for his own benefit. After this, he goes to the hospital and takes Julie away with him. Then he goes to Reno's place, points his gun at him, and says that there must be some other way. Reno tells him that he only has 1 day to free Julie from the spirit's embrace. After that, it's impossible to save her, because Wadabe has already started eating her soul, and once the day is over, Julie will no longer be alive. At this point, Jim is feeling helpless and tired. He cannot believe that their dream vacation has turned so miserable, and most importantly, he cannot see Julie in this state. He is ready to sacrifice anything for the sake of his love, even if it means losing or risking his life. Now Reno is taking them somewhere, and on the way, Wadabe haunts Julie again. Julie starts choking, and her mind is filled with visions and scary images. Jim gives her a shot of tranquilizer, which makes her unconscious. Then, they see that the road has been blocked due to an accident. Julie wakes up once again, and the visions return. Now, Julie sees that one of the bodies is getting up and looking towards her. Then she sees a boy tapping on the car's window, which she fears, so she lets herself out of the van and runs into the forest. Here we see Wadabe behind her, and Jim and others hear her scream. They run into the forest, and when they find her, she starts burning and then falls unconscious. Seeing this, Reno tells them to get her up, as they have no time left. Now they start taking Julie somewhere by boat, and their boat stops along the way. Now, as they start fixing the motor, Julie regains consciousness and sees Wadabe trying to get on the boat and take her away. Eventually, they come to an island, where they meet 3 people, an old lady and her 2 disciples. The lady says everything that's happened is Julie's fault, so she cannot help them. Jim and Gogo try to explain that Julie was tricked into this mess. She didn't know this would happen, and it was Robert's plan to free his girlfriend and get Julie cursed in her place. She tells Jim that if he really wants to save Julie, he must give up something truly precious to the ghost. Only then will it leave them. Jim thinks about it and gives up his engagement ring. He explains that this ring means a lot to both of them, and it's the most valuable asset that he has right now. But she explains that he must give up a part of his flesh to the ghost. Hearing this, Jim is confused, but Gogo reveals that Jim should give his finger, as Wadabe wants flesh and blood. Hearing this, Jim is baffled and terrified. He begs them to start the ritual and find another way to save Julie's life. They finally give in and start the ritual. Suddenly, dark clouds engulf the sky, and they start chanting something loudly. Julie begins writhing on the ground. Her eyes turn white, and she starts seeing visions of the demonic entity. With each passing moment, Julie's condition worsens. She starts twisting on the ground and screaming with intense pain, after which the ghost comes in its human form. We see that Wadabe is a human girl caught up in blazing fire, and now has become an evil ghost. As soon as the fire ends, both Julie and the lady carrying out the ritual pass out. After a few seconds of deadly calm, Wadabe appears in all its might and starts attacking everyone. She is angry, seeing that Gogo drags Jim out of the circle, as she cannot hurt them there. After hurting everyone around her, Wadabe turns to Julie. She picks her up from the ground and starts eating her soul. It's the last moment, and if Jim cannot protect Julie, he will lose her forever. Gogo sees the knife and rushes towards it. Meanwhile, Wadabe catches him by his foot, and he falls. After some struggle, he grabs the knife and throws it to Jim. He tells Jim to cut his finger off. Jim finally gets up the courage and cuts his finger. Wadabe rushes to attack him, but is unable to because of the security cover. As soon as Jim cuts his finger, the ritual lady wakes up, and Wadabe tries to run, but now that they have the flesh and blood to complete the ritual, the lady stops Wadabe and throws her out. Suddenly, the dark clouds leave as Wadabe is defeated, and Julie regains consciousness. Julie vomits blood and gets her senses back. She asks Jim what's happening. Jim hugs her, and they come out. They find Reno waiting outside for them, and then they leave. Next, Jim and Julie are at the airport, where they thank Gogo and hug him for all his kindness and help. The couple finally leaves. After looking at their expressions, it seems that Jim and Julie are relieved that this nightmare is over for them. Although they came to Thailand with dreams of having fun and an amazing time, their reckless behavior and careless friendship with Robert and Bill proved to be a nuisance for them. But nonetheless, Jim and Julie feel much closer after this experience. They both proved that love could conquer any problem, no matter how big it is. Jim and Julie, who came to Thailand to explore their relationship, now leave the country with a much stronger bond and with crucial life lessons. We then see a new couple arriving at the airport, who are also received by Gogo. Then we see a foreign lady in an antique shop looking at an ancient ghost house. She asks her husband to buy it for her. As the camera zooms into the ghost house, we see darkness, and suddenly an eye appears in the center, indicating that the ghost house has found its next victim. The movie brings to light some important factors that should be considered while visiting a new place. One of the most crucial things is to respect the culture and traditions of the place you visit. In the case of Robert, Bill, and his girlfriend, they did something wrong, which was to cause disturbance in the ghost houses. Instead of circumventing the situation, they trapped Jim and Julie and left them to suffer. On the other hand, Jim and Julie's story also highlights that one should not trust random strangers in a new place. Even if they seem friendly, blind trust is never a good thing.